Joining me now is retired Rear Admiral Mike Hewitt. He was involved in civil nuclear power for US and UK for the last few years as well. Mike, lovely to have you back. Is this really now going to be the end of Western troop involvement in Afghanistan, do you think? Or, I mean, we've heard about potentially tens of thousands of foreign fighters flooding into the country, ISIS evidently regaining strength and a bit of a foothold in the country. Surely at some point, America's going to have to deploy troops back in.
I think it's inevitable, Alex. Great to be on your show again. You look at the examples in Iraq when we took out the final troops there, and we saw the creation of ISIS go from 300 people to 30,000 people in the safe haven of Syria. I look at Afghanistan and the Taliban and Al-Qaeda-K, and I can't imagine we're not going to see the same kind of growth in terrorism that we saw in Iraq, which inevitably will bring us back into the conflict.
And so, yeah, where does that leave Afghanistan? Do you think it's hurtling now towards a brutal civil war? How strong a foothold, how strong a position does the Taliban have in that country? Because it's a very sort of fractured and divided nation.
What's going to be interesting as a tribal nation is that the Taliban doesn't think with one voice, neither does Al-Qaeda-K. And so in some instances, you're actually going to see conflict within those organizations as they struggle for primacy. That being said, it's a country that we never expected to have a democracy or to be stable, but we were containing it. We were maintaining some amount of peaceful control with the small footprint that we had. And unfortunately, what you're going to see now is the seeds of the next large terrorist organization, which will threaten the UK and the US. And to your first question, inevitably, we'll have to go back because it'll be a vital national interest again to our two countries.
So this entire withdrawal, frankly, has been a waste of time, creating a massive solution that's going to take even more money, even more troops. It will cost lives. I mean, frankly, it already has, when what was in place was just about doing the trick.
It really was. And what's so frustrating is that we call this the endless war, or we say we finally ended the 20-year war. In reality, we were maintaining a very stable peace in Afghanistan with a small footprint of forces that were allowing the Afghan military to gain a foothold and continue to protect the country. You had a fragile government that was attempting to get its feet underneath itself. And everything really was what I call endless peace in Afghanistan. And that withdrawal of troops had the exact impact that we would have expected it to. The Taliban came back, they took charge. They're claiming victory over America. And really, yesterday's optics were the worst I've ever seen in terms of the last American troop leaving, the Taliban celebrating the victory over the United States. And who knows what's going to happen now with Russia and China's involvement in that country.
And by and large, has the return of US troops been welcomed in America? Or is public opinion over there kind of similar to here, where we're looking at it as, well, a bit of a, I'm trying to think of a non-swearing word right now, and I can't, a bit of a mess?
Well, I think the American public holds its military in high regard, almost more respected than anything, actually more respected than our government. And they'll be welcomed home. They've done a fantastic job. The one thing I'm extremely confident in is the young men and women that serve our military. What I'm not as confident in is the leadership vacuum that we've seen in our military. And unfortunately, I think this is going to lead to dwindling budgets because we have lack of focus. And this is the kind of thing we saw in the late 70s, that we need to come in and repair our military. But in terms of the men and women and how they served, and they served honorably, they succeeded in the mission they were given. Unfortunately, the politics of Afghanistan got in the way of a successful military end state.
We saw this incredible briefing war happening in the UK media earlier today, where sources from the US government have essentially pointed the finger of blame at the UK for the bomb attacks that happened at the airport, saying, well, it was the UK who forced us to carry on allowing people in and didn't close the gate. And the UK has sort of said, quite astonished, what are you talking about? Only you could do that. You controlled the airport. I mean, this is a bit of an ugly look for the special relationship. What is going on? Where is Biden's head right now?
It's really hard to say. This was a political decision by Joe Biden. It's the same thing he pushed as the vice president to take the last troops out of Iraq. He has it in his mind that he was going to remove every American troop from Afghanistan. He said it was a promise to the American people. What the American people did not want to see is the instability that was created by the withdrawal of the American troops. We lost more troops in Afghanistan in that one attack than in the last 2 years. And then this idea of blaming our best ally for the attack, the suicide bombing, it just demonstrates the lack of leadership and lack of decision making and lack of understanding the impact of that withdrawal from Bagram and then leaving that air base as a terrorist safe haven for the attacks that we saw. It was every indication that we knew, and there's been public reporting in the last 2 days, that the Defense Department knew of the imminent threat around that airfield prior to the attack that occurred. So to blame anyone for what occurred, to me, is just showing a lack of leadership and resolve.
Yeah, you've talked about a power vacuum in the military, this lack of leadership and resolve. Are you talking about politically in Joe Biden here, or are you talking about something more inherent structurally to what's going on in the American military? Like, I know Donald Trump set the whole ball rolling by saying to Afghanistan that if you don't make territory, if you don't gain any more ground, then we'll pull our troops out. So some people can point the finger at him and say that Trump started this. But this has been continued by Biden. Now, is that at the advice of his generals or going against the advice of his generals?
If I had to guess, the generals were in unison that the vacuum in Afghanistan that will be created by the withdrawal of the troops will create more challenges for us at home and abroad. The military generals knew that they were holding a stable peace with the small footprint that they had. My concern is that the retired military generals and those in uniform have succumbed to the political pressures of an agenda by which their best military advice is either not being listened to or is being changed to match up with the policies of the politics. And that, to me, is a lack of leadership, and I'm very concerned about that.
Mike, we're all concerned about that.